Good afternoon. This is Kai Smith, your certified trichologist and hair loss advocate. I wanted to come on today and talk about the differences between hair growth and hair retention, because I get a lot of people that come in to see me and the first thing that they say is, my hair is not growing, my hair is not growing. So I just kind of wanted to elaborate on that a little bit, just in case some of you out there are feeling the same way, that your hair is not growing. So let's talk about it. I always like to use this as a rule of thumb. A lot of us are chemical free, so a lot of us don't wear relaxer, but a lot of us that don't wear relaxers sometimes still do wear color. And if you see your hair growing and you need a relaxer touch-up or a color touch-up or anything of that sort, and this is only for those that do wear chemicals, that is a barometer that you can use to show how slow or how fast your hair is growing. And if you find yourself needing a relaxer touch-up or you find yourself needing a color touch-up, then you know that your hair is actually growing and that it is not stunted. For those of us that don't wear chemicals in our hair, it's kind of hard for us to gauge. But what's happening is sometimes we feel like our hair isn't growing because it's not that our hair isn't growing, it's what we're doing to our hair after it grows. So it becomes not a hair growth issue, but a hair retention issue. You have a problem retaining hair after it grows from the scalp. And a lot of us have an issue with that. Now, on average, you get approximately a ½ inch of new growth every month. You should get about a ½ inch of new growth. And so each year you should yield about approximately 6 inches of hair, and that is the average person. Some people may be a little bit below average, but the average person will yield about a ½ inch of hair a month and 6 inches of hair per year, give or take your trims, or if your hair is breaking off, you may or may not see all of that 6 inches of new growth in that 1 year. However, the way that we style our hair or care for our hair, improper hair care practices, improper hair styling, those things will determine how much hair we retain. And also if we're having any types of vitamin or mineral issues, if there are any deficits within our bodies, then that's going to also determine how much hair we retain. So a lot of issues come into play when you start looking at how much hair you're retaining. So the bulk of us are not having problems growing hair. We're having problems retaining hair. When we style our hair, sometimes we're pulling it too tight, and we get what we call traction alopecia, where the hair is popping on the edges, or sometimes you can even get that traction if you're wearing your hair in tight ponytails. You can get that traction in the middle of the head also. So it's not just limited to the edges. That is improper hair styling. A lot of us are using excessive heat on our hair, whether it's the blow dry, the flat iron, the curling iron. All of those are heat. And when we put too much heat on our hair, it can break off. There's a difference between breaking and shedding. Sometimes we get shedding and we become alarmed because we think that our hair is shedding too much. We can shed anywhere between 80 to 100 strands of hair per day, and that's normal because it's the normal cycle of the hair to go through what they call the telogen phase, which is the normal cycle of shedding. And when it becomes excessive, then that's when we have a problem. But just a normal 80 to 100 strands of hair being shed per day, that's normal. And that's the normal life cycle of a follicle, because we don't get new follicles. We just get new hair strands that protrude from those follicles. So we have to get hair strands to fall out in order to get new hair. Okay? So like I said, we don't typically have problems growing the hair. It's retaining the hair. Now, breakage, on the other hand, won't be the long strands, the same length of your hair. That will be the really short strands of hair that are broken off, that are shorter than your normal strands, where when you're combing your hair and you see on your sink or your countertop or wherever you're combing your hair, you may see the smaller little broken pieces of hair that are breaking off on the ends from the ends of our hair. And a lot of times that can come from too much heat being put on the hair. Sometimes it can come from your hair being too dry, a lack of protein. So the hair actually needs to be balanced with protein and moisture. Okay, so there are different variations that can cause your hair to break. A lot of us, when we're shampooing our hair and we're combing it out, we're using the wrong tools to do that. When we wet our hair, it's most weakest when it's wet. We've removed bonds from the hair when we wet the hair, so that makes the hair a little bit weaker. And when we comb through it, we, for some reason, the first thing we like to do is start right at the top, right at the scalp, and we like to pull it all the way through. And then maybe you're not using the right size comb to comb your hair out. So what you're doing essentially is tearing hair out from the follicle that is not really ready to be released, to be ready to be shed. So you're losing more hair than necessary when you comb your hair out improperly. And regardless to if it's wet or if it's dry, you should be combing your hair out from the ends all the way up to the scalp to eliminate any unnecessary hair shed. Okay, so we just want to make sure that we understand the difference between your hair not growing and you retaining hair once it grows out. So it could not be that your hair isn't growing. It could be that you're just not retaining the hair. So make sure that you're keeping your hair hydrated. When you shampoo your hair, make sure you're keeping your hair hydrated with moisturizing shampoos and conditioners. Make sure you're protecting your hair with a leave-in, some type of leave-in spray or cream before you get ready to blow dry your hair. Make sure you're, if you're doing your hair at home, let your hair air dry just a little bit before you go straight to blow drying it. Or if you're a naturalista, make sure that you're getting the proper moisture balance, because that is essentially the problem with women who are natural. They lack moisture. So you want to make sure that you are being balanced with moisture in your hair if you're a naturalista. If you are blow drying your hair out, like I said, let your hair air dry a little bit, so that you're not blow drying your hair straight from dripping wet. So wrap it up in a towel if you don't have a dryer at home. Wrap it up in a towel so that towel can absorb some of that water, and then just kind of let it air dry for a minute, and then blow dry your hair on a warm setting, not the hottest setting on the dryer. And I typically in the salon, what I like to do is take the dryer and kind of use it to blow it a little bit before I actually start going through it to dry it. Just kind of blow it a little bit dry before you start going in. And a rule of thumb that I always share with my clients in my chair is, if you are not a naturalista and you're still using heat on your hair, only use heat from shampoo to shampoo. Don't use anything in between. Don't put any heat on your hair in between the shampoo. You don't iron dirty clothes, so we don't like to iron dirty hair, where your actual natural oils, the sebum in your follicles has actually secreted oil, and you've already put hairspray or some type of serum in your hair. You don't want to keep flat ironing or curling over that, because it will just continue to dry out your hair, and that's how your ends start becoming very brittle. The rest of your hair ends up becoming brittle. Another thing that you want to do is keep your ends trimmed on a regular basis. That's like the lifeline right there. And even if you are a naturalista and you don't put heat on your hair, you always want to make sure that you keep your ends trimmed on a regular basis. The more careful you are with your hair, the better your ends will probably remain intact. The more styling, excessive styling and things like that, if you have color or any chemicals, you may need to get your ends trimmed a little bit more regularly. But, and I say that because I have a lot of clients that are afraid to get their ends trimmed. They want you to only cut off just a little bit. But the truth of the matter is, when you're trimming ends, you have to cut those ends off where they begin splitting. Because splitting ends are just like a run in a stocking. They will continue to split up the hair shaft until you cut them off where the splitting begins. So just taking it baby step by baby step, those ends are continuing to split up the hair shaft until you stop them where they start. And you do not want those split ends to travel so far up your hair shaft that they damage completely healthy hair. So keeping your ends trim is another way to maintain hair retention. So with hair retention, we want to make sure that we're not using excessive heat. We're using good shampoo, moisturizing shampoo and moisturizing conditioner to rebalance the hair's moisture level. We want to make sure we keep our ends trimmed. We want to make sure that we're combing out our hair properly. And we want to make sure that we're not using, or we're not styling with hairstyles that are too tight and that are pulling. So those are some tips that I can give you just about retaining hair. If you want more tips on that, you can always feel free to go to discoverthesecretstohealthyhair.com. You can pick up my book. I discuss that in great detail in the book. discoverthesecretstohealthyhair.com. You can pick up the book for $20. That's with shipping and handling, and I give you a nice little note, signed, sealed, and delivered to you. But those are the tips that I have. If you have any more questions about hair retention versus hair growth, you can feel free to reach out to me. I would love to assist you in your healthy hair journey or in your hair loss journey, trying to recover your roots. So that's all I got for you today. In the future, go and subscribe to my private Facebook page, which is Hair Talk, Hair, Heart, and Soul. I'm in there. You kind of get more up close with me in that group. You can feel free to bring your questions to that group. It's a private space where women can come and discuss anything about beauty, health, and wellness. So I look forward to seeing you in the group, and you guys continue to have a prosperous day, and I will see you later. Thank you for joining me.